Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Law Chats with John and Amy. I'm John Yulian.
And I'm Amy Poliafico. This week's question is, if I'm behind on my mortgage, can a bankruptcy help me? So we thought it would be helpful to use an example for this, so I'm going to tell you the story of Joe. Joe lost his job and is now 8 months behind on his mortgage. His monthly payment is $2,000. 3 months ago, he received a notice from his mortgage company saying that he needed to pay the amounts that he was behind within 30 days. A month after that, he still hasn't made any payments, and he sent another letter from his mortgage company that they were starting the foreclosure process. Joe is now back to work and can start making his regular mortgage payments, but needs time to get caught up on the 8 months of debt he's behind. What do you think? Can a bankruptcy help him?
This would be a perfect situation for what's called a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So there are different types of bankruptcies. You might have heard of Chapter 7 bankruptcy or a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is kind of an individual restructuring of debts. And a Chapter 13 bankruptcy would be very useful here for Joe because it would allow him to pay going forward on his bankruptcy and be able to address his arrears and what he's behind on the mortgage company. Amy, can you talk a little bit about what the plan is in a Chapter 13 and what could be accomplished for Joe with the Chapter 13 plan?
Sure. So part of a bankruptcy, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, is that you are paying an amount every month to a trustee who then distributes that money to your creditors according to a plan, which is a document you and your attorney put together and file with the court, and the judge approves, that explains how you're going to repay your debt. In this situation, we would say, okay, Joe's going to pay $2,000 a month every month to his mortgage company outside of the plan. He's going to pay it direct.
That's the future mortgage payments, Amy?
Correct. And for the 8 months that he's behind, that's about $16,000. I assume there's going to be some late fees added on, but for the sake of this case, we're just going to say it's $16,000 he's behind. And Joe has about $270 extra a month at the end of the day that he can contribute towards a plan. Most plans are either 3 or 4 or 5 years long. He wouldn't be able to afford a 3-year plan, so if we put him in a 5-year plan, the payment would be about $267 a month, so which Joe would be able to afford. He'd pay that money to the trustee every month for 5 years, and then the trustee would then distribute that money back to his mortgage company, taking care of all of his arrears. And at the end of his bankruptcy, he will be all set.
So as you can see, the Chapter 13 would really benefit Joe here. One of the other things with the Chapter 13 filing is the minute Joe files, there's an automatic stay that goes into effect. So the minute Joe filed his Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the mortgage company can't pursue or proceed any further on the foreclosure, which gives Joe peace of mind. And the Chapter 13, as Amy described, would allow him to keep his house and address the problems with the mortgage company. Chapter 13 can be very beneficial, as other types of bankruptcies, for different situations. In future podcasts, we'll talk about these other situations and the different types of bankruptcies and how they can benefit individuals and businesses. But I think for today, that's a good place to stop.
Thanks for joining Law Chats with John and Amy. We look forward to chatting with you again next week.
If you have a question or comment, feel free to email us at info@yulianlaw.com. Remember that Law Chats with John and Amy is intended as a general reference and considered general advertising, and listeners should check for changes to any applicable laws and consult with an attorney on any legal issue. The information provided does not constitute legal advice, and any thoughts or commentary by the podcasting lawyers is provided as a service to the community and does not constitute solicitation of legal advice. The lawyers in the law firm of Yulian & Associates PC make no warranties and disclaim all liabilities for damages resulting from its use. Nothing provided in the podcast should be considered a substitute for advice from counsel. No attorney-client relationship is formed by listening or participating in this podcast, and in the event that the podcast receives emails about the subject matter, no attorney-client relationship is created via the email communication.